Hello, everyone, and welcome to this training on best practices for making your website effective for recruitment, specifically geared towards adult education. And this is put on by the Illinois Community College Board, partnered with the Illinois Center for Specialized Professional Support at Illinois State University and the Professional Development Network at Southern Illinois University. My name is Kirsten Bayer, and I work for the Illinois Center for Specialized Professional Support at Illinois State University. I'm an online marketing coordinator there, and within my job description, I help collaborate with our developers to ensure all the best practices that we're going to discuss today are sought after in all of our websites that we hold throughout our grants that we put on with our center. I also hold a BS in public relations and a master's degree in communications from both from ISU. So I am a Redbird through and through. Along my list of resume experiences, I also held the position of marketing intern with ISU's Office of Admissions. So I hold a little bit of recruitment background from that end. I'm also currently an instructor of public speaking at Illinois State University and Richland Community College. So I'm familiar with the community college system and adult ed programs through that entity as well. I also deal with all of our social media and most of our marketing initiatives through our center, working with design and collaborating with our team to push out the best marketing and professional development that we can for all of our clients and customers and grants that we work with, the Illinois Community College Board being one of those. And so before we start off with the best practices for today, I want to encourage you to register for the 3 webinars to support the adult education system in collaboration with the Adult Education Professional Development Network. Our center, ICSPS, are offering these 3 webinars to support the adult education system with the adult education student recruitment plan. And the first one is going to be held on February 17th, the second one on February 24th, and the third one on March 3rd. And this is the training that you will need to watch. So hopefully you are signed up for those already to complete these sessions. This is the first step, is attending this training. So let's briefly cover the Illinois Center for Specialized Professional Support's best practices for making your website effective for recruitment. There are 16 best practices that we're going to discuss in this training, and I will show you examples and elaborate on these further in the following slides. Number 1 is to use consistent branding throughout your website. That is marketing 101. You want to use consistent branding throughout anything that you're pushing out from your adult ed program. And then number 2 is to leave plenty of white space on your webpage, and we'll just talk about that a little bit more in a second. Number 3 is to reduce your choices, and that goes hand in hand with number 4, which is to limit headings and pathways, which also goes hand in hand with number 5, which is to have simple and easy navigation. So 3, 4, and 5 are kind of all together, they are connected. And then number 6 is to apply the rule of thirds, which is a design principle, and we will discuss that further. Number 7 is to compress your files, your images, everything that's housed on your website. And again, we'll discuss that. Number 8 is color and contrast, another design element that we will discuss. Number 9 is to include any animation if doable. Number 10 is to have analytics for your web page, easily accessible, and to know how to analyze them and make decisions based off of those analytics. Number 11 is to investigate, specifically investigating search engine optimization, which we will talk about that. Number 12 is to connect with other entities that can help push out your website and draw attention to your website. Your website is basically your home base for your adult ed program. And so we want to draw as much attention to that as possible. Number 13 is to reach out to those entities. Number 14 is to have a responsive design, and we'll talk about that, but I'm specifically focusing on the responsive design of your website to be responsive whether a user is accessing it from a computer, tablet, or a phone. Number 15 is to consider adding video to your adult ed page. And then number 16 is to have readability, specifically accessibility, focusing on that nature. So let's focus on the first best practice. The first best practice is to use consistent branding. And so specifically throughout the website and social media marketing or any digital marketing that you're pushing out, you will want to include similar fonts, logos, color schemes, and imagery. You want to make sure your logo is on every document it possibly can be that you are producing. We want to pay credit where credit is due, right? And we want to push out that logo in front of as many consumers and potential students as we can. We also want to have that logo on every aspect of your social media that you can, not only in, so for example, on Facebook, not only in your profile photo or in your cover photo, but even on your posts, if you're generating custom graphics, if you have a graphic designer that you're working with, or you're using some sort of graphic designing software in-house, including your logo on those customized social media posts as well to help generate leads back to your webpage. And then be consistent with colors and images throughout your website, social media, and the documents as well. We've touched on that, but you have to become compositional visual designers, basically. So graphic designers are very talented. I do not consider myself a graphic designer in any regard, but I do consider myself a compositional visual designer. And what I mean by that is you have the artistic ability or that artistic eye to develop colors and shapes and typography and text together to create a visually appealing image or a visually appealing design. And so if you feel that your website lacks in this regard, there's a couple websites that I've created or that I've put in front of you to reference that can help you with that compositional visual design and starting from the basics. A lot of people don't know where to start, right? So the first one is colors.co, and it actually helps you pick out colors that collaborate and go well together based on the color wheel, and they'll give you the exact letter code that those colors are, so you can put them in whatever graphic design or management system you're using. So for example, I use Canva a lot at our center for multitude of things, as well as we have a out-of-house graphic designer that we utilize sometimes, and we can send those color codes to her if we so choose to. And so picking your color wheelhouse is very important because remember you're going to have it on everything. So your adult ed program probably already has colors established with it, but you can find collaborating colors and color schemes and patterns that will go along with it and help enhance that design. Similar or another step to this is picking out the font. So we want that font to work cohesively with the color scheme that we've chosen for the website. And so a great resource for that is Font Pair, and you can actually practice pairing multiple fonts with your exact copy, so your exact text from your website, whether that's like your title or a paragraph explaining something about your adult ed program, whatever, you can put it in the Font Pair website, and it will actually show you different fonts that can go together and help emphasize headings from body paragraphs and fonts that just look really, really good together. So the second best practice is to leave plenty of white space in your design. And this can be a varying color as well. So for example, on our center's website, our varying color is gray, not white, but it's typically a version of white, gray, black, kind of one of those basic wheelhouse colors between elements for aesthetic and to separate our elements as well. And leaving plenty of white space provides sophistication and prestige to your website and your adult ed program, but it also houses, and that's great, right? That's pretty. We love that. But it also houses a lot of user-based benefits. It improves readability, which is a best practice that we'll get to in a second, and it improves scannability of your website for the user. It also, a study that was at Wichita State University found that having plenty of white space improves reading comprehension on your website by 20%, which is huge. We don't want to defer any potential students from our website because they can't read the content that's on the website. And how does leaving plenty of white space actually benefit that in readability and scannability? So whitespace design renders your content easy on the user's eyes by eradicating extraneous details and breaking up information into easily digestible chunks. So basically, it reduces the amount of cognitive load based on the user, which in turn reduces the bounce rate of, and the bounce rate is just basically it reduces them leaving your site because they can't digest and they can't read what's on the site. It's too busy, right? So providing that clarity is important, and that's why leaving plenty of white space is a best practice. But you also have to, um, another benefit of leaving that white space is to prioritize which content to show first and how much emphasis to actually put on that content. So a lot of people are afraid of white space in terms of design on graphics or website, any marketing kind of publishing that you're putting out. But prioritizing that white space can actually help emphasize those call to action items and the copy that we want to draw the students to for our adult ed programs. So this is a great example of a website that actually used white space. And so to create a wireframe for your white space design is a great best practice as well. So there's a free wireframe tool in this resource that can help get you started. Using a website wireframe will help you nail down your white space design and determine the correct quantity of spacing and padding around each element. Basically, this tool is just a website that you can upload graphics and text into, and it's kind of like your own little dummy website that you can practice the way the layout looks and things look on your website. And if you work with a developer for your website, you can also use this free wireframe tool to, screenshot or copy and paste stuff that's on your website and put it in a design that's visually appealing and uses that white space based on these best practices that we're talking about today. And then you can show um, that document from the free wireframe tool to your developer. So that way you have a visual for them to go off of what you are actually wanting for your adult ed page. And then it gives you the medium to try out the different spacing between the elements. And white space can actually create a visual hierarchy. So it draws our eyes to the orange on this web page, right? And that's the title. And that's kind of their call to action and what they want us to know specifically about their website. And it helps to strike a balance between white space and content. So you want to find that balance. You want to avoid cluttering the web page, and you also want to avoid a Spartan effect of having so much white space that there's nothing on your website. So there's a happy medium to white space in terms of designing for your website. I personally don't think you can have enough white space. I like to use colors like gray and black so that way, because I feel like white does look bare sometimes. But it's just basically creating that balance between those basic colors, white, black, gray, charcoal, different forms of those colors to create emphasis on our web page and draw the eye to what we actually want to draw it to. And so best practice 3 is to limit choices and to limit menu items. This is a best practice because you don't want to have too many menu items, because this potentially could disperse visitors' attention and make your website look overcrowded and potentially even make your recruitment effort look desperate. Whether your recruitment effort is desperate or not, we don't want to appear that way through our adult ed programs. And so you want to limit your menu items, use obvious and simple terms in your menu items, nothing too nothing like using acronyms, because potential students might not know what those are, and nothing that's too high level in terms of like program specifics or things like that. You want to use obvious and simple terms. Like, what are they looking for? They're looking for recruitment. They're looking for how to apply to the program. They're looking for support, financial support, financial help, whatever it is. Simple terms that what is the first thing that they're going to be looking for on your page, and that should help you limit your menu items. And it's also important to not go too deep into your menu items. No web page on your website should be farther than 3 clicks away, including mouse overs, so that's hovering. So for example, on this Amazon website, you can see that they have to hover over departments to have the other drop-down menu, so that counts as 1 click. And then let's say you click on jewelry, that's 2 clicks. So then you finally get to the jewelry page and you want to click on necklaces. Okay, so that's a 3rd click. So that should take you to a bunch of options to purchase a necklace. But let's say it doesn't. Let's say it takes you to necklace brands instead that Amazon sells. So that's having a 4th click before you actually get to the option items to purchase that necklace. And so you're going too deep away from your homepage. Basically, websites need to be as simple as possible in terms of navigation. Consumers are lazy, and we don't want to have to click 800 buttons to get to where we want to go, which no one wants to, honestly. We're going there for information, and we want that information to be readily available for our potential students. Your navigation or menu bar should have at most 5 to 7 items maximum. So you can see that's why Amazon on this page just has at the very top on their main menu bar, they just have departments, youramazon.com, today's deals, gift cards and registries, sell, and help. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So they're just under that 7 item maximum. And then they have all the drop downs underneath each one that a user potentially would need as basically a sub menu. So your main menu bar should not have more than 5 to 7 items. Less is more in this regard. And if you need to have subcategories and submenus based off of your main menu, because your program has a lot of entities and you have a lot of information on your website, then that's another part of this best practice. The goal is to have the user be easily navigated throughout your website. And doing this allows everything to be more visually prominent and seen and considered for action. This goes hand in hand with number 4 and 5 best practices. And number 4 best practice is to limit headings and pathways. So we talked about that with limiting the choices of the navigation in best practice number 3. So this also goes along with that, to limit the menu headings. Again, that best practice of only having 5 to 7. And then to keep it as minimal as possible for organized content. A best practice to implement this best practice is to create a sitemap. And so you can do this using, shapes and arrows in Word if you're not super tech savvy. There are sitemap free websites that we would be happy to provide you, as well as you can just search them on your search engine on Google. But this allows you to create those navigation pathways so that way you can limit headings and pathways. So that way you're not having, our team and mission and values on your main menu. You can just have a overarching menu of about section, and your about section can lead to our team, mission and values, management, and contact us. So you have the top level of navigation, the second level of content, and the third level of content. So you're not going past those 3 clicks with this. And so by actually site mapping these navigations out, it can help you avoid going past those 3 clicks, and then also help you realize that you could include submenu, second level content, submenu items into your top level navigation, and take those from your top level navigation and put them down at second level content and have that overarching menu item as well. So the fifth best practice is to have simple and easy navigation. To provide simple and easy to use navigation, including a search window that is accurate with keywords. So you can see this is our center's website. We have this search engine right here to help streamline your navigation bar. Our navigation bar is pretty streamlined, if I do say so myself. It's pretty clear cut with the red background, white words, a bold font, capital letters with our acronyms for each of our grants. Another best practice for simple and easy navigation is to keep sidebars separate. So any sidebar information that you might have, if you go down on our website, we have a calendar and some of our special projects that are sidebar, but those are not in our menu. Oops. Those are not in our menu heading. So that main navigation, the first thing they see at your top of your website should be simple and easy. And you can do that by making that text obvious and keeping those sidebars separate, putting your navigation in a standard place. That's why you say most navigation bars and menu bars at the top of websites are seen at the top. Sometimes they're in the footer as well. So don't forget about the footer. If you can have multiple places on the homepage where you can access the same content, that's for the better. And also to connect the navigation with your priorities. So our priority is recruitment. So your navigation pathways and your sitemap should have multiple ways to lead students to recruitment for your adult ed programs, and making that recruitment at the forefront of your priority on your website, since that is the goal. The sixth best practice is to implement the rule of thirds, which is a design principle. And so you're going to apply the rule of thirds so that the eye naturally drifts when looking at your web page. And so when you're looking at really anything, but specifically a graphic, your eye scans and it uses the rule of thirds. And so anything that our eye is scanning over in the top left corner is typically where our eyes start. And you can see there's about a 40% retention rate from your eye to your mind, that consuming whatever it is that your eyes are consuming. And then we typically move down to the left and you can see it's 25%. And then we move over to the right, 20%, and down on the right, 14%. So that is typically how our eyes scan an image, and we use the rule of thirds. So how to implement this in your web page is by having that most important information, or those call to action items, in the top left and top and left bottom of your website, because that is where our brains are consuming the most out of those images that are and text and colors that our eyes are seeing. And so, for example, on this web page, you can see at the very top left, you have the title of the web page and you have the word ensure your future, which is their tagline. And the bottom left, you have welcome to their website with the description of what their website is. And then moving over to the right, there's less important information with just a graphic of a probably a realtor or probably just a staple graphic, honestly. And then down at the bottom, today's rates. So moving from left to right is how the importance of your information or call to action items or graphics should be um, implemented throughout your web page. Best practice number 7 is to compress files, compress images and files as much as possible so you don't overcrowd your website server. Even if you know that your website server has oodles and oodles of space, it still can slow down your website if you have a lot of PDFs, documents, applications, fillable PDFs, videos, pictures, images, and even some text options. It can still slow down your website, which is not user friendly. And so you want to try to compress images and files as much as possible before you're putting them on your website. My best practice and best advice is to always have it below 1 megabyte of a file size. And these are some websites that I utilize pretty much 300 times a day to put PDFs and videos and images on our websites at the center. The first one is an option to help shrink a PDF. So you can actually shrink a PDF using Adobe Acrobat if you have that on your computer. And you can just do this by going to File and Compress PDF. It will then prompt you to compress it. It will load and compress it as much as possible. You can save the item to your desktop. And then let's say it's still not below 1 megabyte, which happens to me quite frequently, honestly. And then you can upload it to the shrinkpdf.com. That website will try to shrink it again as much as possible. You will download it again from your desktop, and you can go between the two of these using Adobe and the shrinkpdf.com until you get to that 1 megabyte, or at least until the lowest form you can get. Sometimes it's only 1.2 megabytes, 1.5, but typically I'm able to get at least under 2 megabytes with most of our file sizes and content, depending on um, how much imagery and videos are really in the content that we're uploading. If you are trying to compress an image, whether it's a PNG or a JPEG, there's also some websites for that as well that I've included as resources. This is very time consuming, especially if you have a big PDF file, if it's a fillable file, especially, and you have to go back and forth. But it does save your user because they will not get frustrated with the lag of your web page and the lag of these resources downloading because they're too big. And so, even though it's a lot of work potentially on your end or your developer's end or whoever puts documents and PDFs up on your website, it does provide a way more user-friendly service and experience for our potential students. And we don't want anything to deter them, something as simple as this from our adult ed program. Our 8th best practice is to use color and contrast to your advantage to appeal to any call to action items that you might have on your webpage. And so to get the most contrast, you will want to pick a complementary color that is opposite to your background color on the color wheel. And so you can see the color wheel, the complementary color wheel. You can pick a variation of these colors. So obviously there's a million shades of green, right? And using that color resource that I cited earlier in the presentation, you can help utilize that. But you know that a form of green and red are considered complementary colors because they are opposites on the color wheel. And so using a variation of these can actually help emphasize text or images or highlight items, call to action items that you want to draw attention to on your website. You can also use a triadic color, which I prefer these because I feel like it does provide contrast without being too much in your face or hurting your eyes sometimes as a user. And this is a color that's 1/3 of the way around from your dominant color on the color wheel. So if your dominant color is yellow, 1/3 of the way around is a medium shade of blue or a red. And so you can see this emphasized in this Spotify website layout. Music for everyone. They have the text in white, which is easily readable, which is another best practice at the end of this presentation. But they have their background in shades and hues of orange and yellow and red. And then they have their call to action item in green. So you can see that emphasis of red and green used in that complementary color. The ninth best practice is to apply animation if possible. And so you can do this by providing drop downs and pop-ups if doable. If you're familiar with a website and how if you hover over something, sometimes it will jump out at you. Our student success stories on our CTE website on our website do this. They when you hover over them, because they are linked to a PDF, they will pop out at you. And then also your drop down menus, if you have a sub menu, those are also top bars and pop-ups. They just help with drawing attention to those call to action items, drawing attention to those resources, because it's another form of doing that with animation. And so if your developer does have that capability, try to implement that to your call to action items, as well as using that color contrast as well. The 10th best practice is to implement analytics in some form. And this really does depend on your website developer and who houses your website and who designs your website and changes things on your website. Specifically, we work with a third party at our center, so I work with them to get these analytical numbers and help analyze these reports for us. If you're not familiar with Google Analytics, you can take free courses on Google. They're absolutely free, Google Analytic courses, and you can get Google Analytics certified. I 10 out of 10 recommend these courses. They're free for one, and they also really do break it down and help you understand. I think we're all aware that Google Analytics or analytics of websites exists, but they help us. These trainings will really help you take these numbers over on the right, which this is a form of our own Google Analytics, and actually be able to make decisions with them, and actually be able to help you realize, that these best practices that you're implementing on your website are drawing attention, and that your marketing efforts are having some sort of correlation to your actual recruitment numbers. The 11th best practice is to investigate search engine optimization. If you're not familiar with what SEO stands for, it is search engine optimization. It's the practice of increasing both the quality and quantity of website traffic, as well as exposure to your brand through non-paid or organic search engine results. You can pay for SEO, and most websites do, especially when they're competing against a lot of different entities. So, like, for example, Amazon definitely pays for SEO, and other, like, whoever their biggest competitors are is who they're competing with. So if you feel that you are competing with other adult ed programs that are potentially near your area, you might look into actually investing in SEO and drawing that traffic to your website. But you can also do it organically. And this again is done through your developer. We are able to optimize it with our developer. And you can do the paid or the free version. You will want to reach out to them to help emphasize or help execute that. But it can help you get free targeted traffic from search engines. So having search engine optimization actually increases your traffic opportunity on your webpage by 20 times, which is amazing. And search engines are basically just huge answer machines, and they scour billions of pieces of content and evaluate thousands of factors to determine which content is most likely to answer whatever our question is. And so search engines do all of this by discovering and cataloging all the available content on the internet. So web pages, PDFs, images, videos, text, all of it. And the search engine is able to catalog all of that and discover all of that, and then via a process known as crawling and indexing. So typically people call them Google's spiders, or like Yahoo's spiders. If you use Yahoo or Bing as a search engine, they call them spiders because they're crawling and indexing. And then they order it by how well it matches your inquiry in a process we refer to as a ranking. And so you want to be on that top page of ranking. So you do this by a lot of different factors. A lot of geolocation comes into play if you're trying to reach a targeted market. And so that's where paid search engine optimization, so that paid advertising might come better into play for your adult ed program because you're really trying to, you're not, this big conglomerate company like Amazon that's trying to reach every single consumer. You're trying to reach a niche target population. And so using that paid SEO can actually help you better find that niche and using keywords for your program, or looking for people who are looking for how to finish my GED, or how to start a career, or looking for a job, use seeking employment, keywords like that. When you do the paid SEO and the organic SEO, you can utilize keywords, but the paid SEO also develops geolocation efforts. And so you can really target your niche market based on their location as well. So definitely investigate search engine optimization if you have the capabilities to do so. It can really help drive traffic to your website. The 12th best practice is to connect to social media. So we always want to connect all of our online marketing efforts as much as we possibly can. And social media, I mean, it comes as no surprise, is a huge effort, a huge online marketing effort. And it indirectly influences the factors that impact search rankings. So social media can help drive your website organically to the search engine optimization, which can then return drive consumers and potential students to your webpage. So it's important because it has the potential to drive that quality web traffic to your webpage, because social media does that paid SEO for us already. So if you have a good social media platform that's heavily built up and heavily followed or heavily shared, it can help drive because Facebook is obviously paying for SEO. And so if you have a page on Facebook or a page on Twitter or LinkedIn or what have you, those social media companies are already paying for the SEO, and then the search engine is pulling your social media page maybe on the top page of that Google instead of necessarily your actual web page, but then your web page is connected to your social media. So therefore it can help. It's basically a middleman. Social media can be a middleman in terms of search engine optimization to driving traffic to your web page. You can also help drive traffic from your webpage to your social media. So they should really work hand in hand and collaborate and work with each other. So don't reinvent the wheel. You want to connect all of your online presence, digital market. When you have and you connect all of your online presence, that creates a successful digital marketing strategy. And so you want to have your social media connected to your email marketing, and you want to have your both of those connected to your website in some way, by linking them, having graphics associated with them, pushing out social media posts that direct people to content on your website, connecting those in as many ways as possible. And so when you create and publish quality materials that connect with your target students, those materials become advocates, and you can push those out via your social media and have that connect back to your webpage. So another way to have that traffic drawn to your webpage. This graphic over here, I really like it. It kind of shows the wheelhouse of how social media supports search engine optimization. So when you're on social media, you're going to publish, create an inspiring, informative content. So a post basically, and then you share that content and you help link it to your webpage. And then your social media profile collects followers while your website is also gaining traffic. So they're collaborating and working hand in hand together. And then your community and your brand, your adult ed program continues to grow if you are consistent in doing number 1, 2, and 3. And then when you consistently grow, you have more interactions. And the more interactions you have through social media and through that authoritative search engine optimization also helps to reinforce your brand reputation of your adult ed program. and that helps reinforce your search engine index website higher. So the ability to actually be found on those search engines. And then users are able to find your site better organically through those search engines. So this would be the use of not using paid SEO, but only using it organically. And social media can help push that organic use of SEO and help connect um, those targeted students to your adult ed webpage. The 13th best practice is to reach out. Reach out to other marketing channels to draw them to your webpage. Use that mass media marketing, email marketing that you're already pushing out your newsletter through, or you're already pushing out mass emails to students through. Use that to draw them to your adult ed webpage. Maybe you're pushing it out to your community or community efforts within your local community. Maybe you're pushing out an email to them, help draw put your website, your social media in those things. A great use of this is putting links to your social media or links to your website in your email signature. You should absolutely do that. Another great option to reach out is to potentially create an ambassador program. So if you're familiar with like Instagram influencers or Facebook influencers, obviously those are a huge thing right now. I have created in the past basically a copycat of basically what a social media influencer is, and done this with a university. I actually did this with the Office of Admissions at ISU, and we created an ambassador program. And that ambassador program was of past students and current students that we analyzed that were heavily active and involved on campus, social media, Facebook groups, anything to do with ISU really, but were also really heavily active and had a good following. So this could be past students of your program, success stories of your program, or even current students that are thriving in your program. And they might not necessarily have a bunch of followers, but that's okay. They could still be an ambassador because they have, some followers. And it might be a friend of a friend that they're friends with on Facebook, or a family member that they're friends with on Facebook that are influenced by their participation in your adult ed program. So you might even look into creating an ambassador program to help generate and push potential recruited students to your webpage. Utilizing that email marketing as well, text message marketing if your university or if your college utilizes that in any way, text message marketing, and then any kind of mailers that your college is pushing out already, that your program's pushing out already, any kind of mailings that you're mailing to current students. You never know when that's going to be shared, or potentially they would need to utilize your webpage and could share with someone they know. So anything to push that recruitment effort out with all of those different marketing entities connecting to your webpage. The 14th best practice is to have a responsive design. This again has to do with your developer, but making sure your website is comprehensive on mobile devices and also has a responsive design to adjust to all browsers, screen sizes, and devices. If someone gets on your website, your adult ed program website on their phone, which I would say 98% of potential students are accessing it probably for the first time on their phone. They're If it's not responsive, so if they can't read it, if it looks wonky, if the images are off, if it's not a responsive design, then they are way less likely to either go back to your adult ed program on their mobile device or access it from a different device, such as a tablet or desktop, where it might be more responsive. So making sure your website is responsive on all entities, especially your web page, and making sure all your documents, your PDFs and your files and your fillables and your applications and all of those things are all responsive as well. It can be accessible through all of those different entities, mobile, tablet, and desktop. The 15th best practice is to consider adding video to your webpage in any way, shape, or form that you see relatable to your adult ed program. So, one video on your website can improve engagement by 86%. Of having a video on your homepage specifically, you are 53 times more likely to end up on the first page of a search engine. So there's that organic search engine optimization that you can help utilize that video. Videos keep people on your website longer and engage them with your content. People, people love working with people, right? And so video helps people get to know, like, and trust you. And then videos keep your audience interested. So no matter your product or your service, videos are fast and convenient. And then 68% of consumers would prefer watching an explanation video. So, like a video of how to apply to your program, or a video, a success story video on your adult ed program. 68% of consumers would actually prefer to watch a video than read text on a website. And then this, I love this 2015 video marketing cheat sheet. So why you need videos, where you would place it on your website, and then how to perfect it into all of your different marketing entities. So why you would need video on your website, you're 4 times as many consumers would rather watch a video than read about a product or read about your program. So obviously this has to do a lot with the business sector, but we're applying it to the adult ed sector. 1 in 4 consumers lose interest in a company if that company doesn't have video. So that transfers and can correlate to your adult ed program website as well. I would say 1 in 4 of your students probably lose interest if you don't have some sort of video or imagery on your webpage. 4 in 5 consumers believe that demo videos, so those explainer videos, are helpful. So that can be really helpful to potential adult ed students that you're trying to reach. Having videos explaining how to apply, what are your first steps, how do they even start to get engaged with your program or contact someone within your program. And then where to place it, you can place that video in your email and your social media on your website and spanning it out across your platforms, and then how to perfect it. So in order of importance. So how the product is made. So maybe talking about the history of your adult ed program or how that program came into play, having testimonials. So those success stories from your program, past students who are successful, again, putting that ambassador program in, it can be correlated with this and pushed out through this consider adding video aspect as well. And talking about your adult ed program in general through video can also be engaging for potential users. And then your last best practice, the last one is number 16, and it's readability. And so just check your readability, including your font selection, select maximum 2 to 3 fonts for your whole website. Also having that accessibility option. So you'll see on our Ada website, we have 3 different sizes of fonts that can be chosen, and our website will populate those and make the fonts bigger or smaller depending on what that user needs for their accessibility needs. Also checking your grammar, your misspellings, making sure all of your videos on your website have some form of closed captioning. If you have a YouTube for your adult ed program or for your college, YouTube does provide closed captioning efforts. And so we utilize that a lot through our center. And then just double checking for that readability and any incorrect content. Sometimes when we're putting new content, new images, new information on our website, we don't thoroughly check it for grammar misspellings and just to make sure that it's all correct. So just making that a best practice as well. So overall, all of these 16 best practices, how does this content actually affect your recruitment? And so I want to take this graphic that was obviously geared towards more of like a business or a sales sector and push it towards your recruitment efforts. So 79% of customers who report dissatisfaction with website performance are less likely to buy from that same site again. So potential students are your customers for your adult ed program. So 79% of those potential customers, adult ed students, who report dissatisfaction with website performance are less likely to buy, aka enroll in your program. Mobile users, this is where that responsive design comes in. And also where compressing your file size comes in so that you don't have pages or files on your website that load slowly. 64% of smartphone users expect pages on their smartphone to load in less than 4 seconds. And if it doesn't, it can lose their attention. Having that customer experience, 47% of customers expect a web page to load in 2 seconds or less. So on a tablet or a desktop, 47% of your potential customers, so potential adult ed students, expect your web page to load in 2 seconds or less. Otherwise, you could lose them from recruiting them. Revenue, this isn't as applicable, but if your site or if your adult ed program is enrolling X amount of students per day, 1 second improvement in page speed. So pushing out your page speed, helping compress those files, helping have that responsive design to all of the tablet, the phone, all those things, can help bring, they say $7,000 daily. This isn't a direct correlation, but obviously it will help bring more traffic to your webpage. So that's kind of your revenue, right? How many students can we recruit? That's our revenue. And then 1 second delay in page load website time means 11% loss of page views. So a second delay in your search engine optimization efforts. So basically how high up you are on the first page of the search engine, whether that's Google or whatever, can potentially mean an 11% loss of page views for potential students. And those page views are web page views. And we want to drive that traffic to our web page because our webpage is our main recruitment tool, right? That's how we're recruiting our students, is using our website. And then conversion. So 1 second delay in the website and 1 second delay in time means a 7% reduction in conversions to your actual revenue. So remember, our revenue isn't dollars necessarily, it's adult ed students. And so having a slow website, having a not visually appealing website, and having information not being able to access easily, not having correct readability, not implementing all of those different marketing efforts together, social media, website design, our email marketing, potentially doing an ambassador program, all of those things can potentially reduce our actual revenue, those recruitment students, by 7%. So obviously I'm making a little bit of a stretch here by applying this graphic directly to adult ed, our adult ed system, but I do believe that this graphic can be correlated to the exact same components that we're trying to reach. We're trying to reach customers. We're trying to reach potential adult ed students. And so implementing these best practices can help us do just that and help us recruit so much better. And we can directly correlate that and we can measure that with those analytics, those Google Analytics. So make sure to check those out. And then that is it. That's all I have for you today. So I really hope this information was helpful, and I look forward to helping you apply it and answering any questions you have in our live sessions. I'm actually going to go back to that so I can pull it up again. But be sure that you are ready to join us for and how to actually understanding the process of adult ed recruiting and then doing that gap analysis and then actually having those next steps in successful submission and actually applying these to your website. And so I'm so excited to work with all of you, and I hope you enjoyed this training video. Thank you so much.